So lesson 4, some more review stuff. You've seen all of these things before. Distributive property, some of the important reminders as we are solving equations, and when we are moving things from one side to the other, if it was added, we subtract it from both sides, so when it shows up on the other side, it has changed a sign. So reviewing on the distributive property. Write this down in the formula section of your notes. We know that the distributive property is when we have something times a parentheses. And what we do is we take whatever is on the outside and multiply it by each of the things on the inside. So A times B plus C becomes AB plus AC. It could be longer than that. We could have had something like an MN times A plus B minus C plus D. And if we were to distribute that, we'd take the MN as one thing times the A. Then we'd take it times the B. This one has a minus sign thrown in, so we'd have a minus C times MN. And then finally, we'd have plus the D times MN. So you've been working with that for at least a couple of years now, so that should be very familiar. We are going to do this now with very messy things that have a lot of our exponents in there. So going back to just where you keep your regular notes, I'd like you to copy this example, and then we'll talk through how we're going to simplify that. First thing, I'd like everybody type, but don't hit enter yet. What is this b to the 0? What can I do with just that part? Type it in chat. Wait a moment so everybody's got their answer ready to send. And click send. Perfect. That is just a 1, so that goes away because 1 times the rest of that is exactly what we see there. Okay, we can deal with the negative exponents now, or we can wait till the end, whatever works better for you. I'm going to leave them like that for right now, because then I'll see which ones I really need to use the upstairs downstairs rule on later to clean things up a little bit. But what I am going to do is I am going to take this whole thing out here in front, and first I'm going to multiply that by the first term that I have right here. So the number parts of that become 2 times 2 is a 4. Then what I have is a to the minus 4 times a to the first. If I put those together, if I add the minus 4 plus 1, it's minus 3. This b to the 0 is just a 1. I've also then still got times the b squared and times the c. The only ones I needed to combine the exponents on were the a's, because I had a to 1 power times a to another power. In the denominator, I have c x squared. And what I notice right away is those c's can cancel. Okay, then I am going to multiply what I had on the outside times the other term. I have a plus times a minus, so I keep the minus sign. I have a 2 times a 1 is just a 2. I need to put the a's together. So a to the minus 4 times a to the minus 2, I add those exponents and have a to the minus 6. And that's everything that I have for that numerator. This denominator is b to the minus 4 times c. And then my last step is simply that I want to clean up those negative exponents. So 4 is positive, it can stay up there. B squared is positive, but I'm going to move this one with the negative exponent downstairs and it becomes positive. And I'll keep x squared where it is because it already had a positive exponent. Minus, the 2 can stay where it is. A to the minus 6 needs to move and become a plus 6. b to the minus 4 needs to move and become a b to the positive 4, and c stays put. So there is my answer. So a little bit messy, but just work through it step by step, just like everything that we have always been doing with these kinds of problems. I'm not seeing any heads going up and down or seeing any W's, so I'm going to go on to my next example for the day. When we are solving equations, sometimes we'll be using the distributive property. So we've got something on the outside of the parentheses. So what I'm going to do before I do anything else is to clean up the distributive property. I know I see fractions in there. After I use the distributive property, I will think about, do I need to try to clear fractions or not? But if you've got the distributive property, it's less confusing if you go ahead and do that first. So if I take 3 times the 5/6, I get 5 halves. If I simplify, the 3 over the 6 reduces to a half. If I multiply times the minus 5/3, this 3 clears the denominator in that part, so I just have a minus 5x. On the right side, I need to distribute my minus sign, so that changes all of the plus minus signs inside the parentheses, and I have a half minus x. And I think what I'll do first, just because it's pretty easy, is I will combine the x's all on one side. And if I do that, if I add 5x to both sides, just because I kind of want to get a positive value, the 5x minus x becomes a 4x. And while I'm at it, I might as well get the numbers all on one side. If I want to get rid of this a half, if I want to move it to the other side, it needs to change signs and become a minus, or we think of it as subtracting a half from both sides. And 5 halves minus 1 half, I know, is 4 halves, or 2. So with this one, I didn't really need to do something to clear the fractions, because the fractions that I ended up with combined so easily to make an integer. Next example, we will review how we clear the fractions out of there. So everybody do your last step on that. Type your final answer. What's your value for x? Don't hit enter until everybody's had a chance to get it ready to send. Do the last step on that, and what will x be equal to? And send. Okay, and that's pretty much what I expected. We have to be careful here. We have 4x and we want just x, so we need to divide both sides by 4, so that's 1x. When we divide this side by 4, we get a half as our answer for x. So be sure you're careful on that. Don't try to jump to mental math. Make sure you're really thinking through the steps on it. Okay, now one where we review clearing the fractions. So I've got a bunch of different denominators in there. And so the first thing that I want to do is to get rid of those. I want to multiply by something that will make all those denominators go away. Type into chat what you think we should multiply by, but again, wait to hit enter. What we want to do is we want to get the least common multiple of those denominators of 2, 4, and 5. So that when we multiply it, we'll cancel all of those out. Now hit enter. What will we multiply by? Perfect. We're going to be multiplying by 20, everything on both sides. So for the left, if we were to distribute, 20 over 2 becomes a 10. So I have the 10 times 3x, or 30x. The 10 times 3x would be an optional step. You could jump straight to the 30x if you wish. Continue to distribute. The 20 over, well, first it's a minus. The 20 over 4 is a 5, times the 5 that was in the original numerator means that I have a minus 25. Don't forget the other side. Here, the 20 over 5 becomes a 4. This one, it probably is best if you actually write the 4 down and then put the original numerator in parentheses, so you don't forget to multiply both parts by 4. Then we have to distribute again, 12x minus 4. So get the x's on one side, and numbers on the other side. When you have your answer, type it in chat, but wait to hit send. And send. And we're doing pretty well with that. 18x equals 21. We want to have 1x, so we divide both sides by 18. Those are both multiples of 3, so let's make sure we remember to reduce. And the final answer is 7/6. And one other topic for the day. Sometimes the problems will say solve for y, which sometimes we also use the word isolate y. So we want to end up with y equals. Now it will still have some variables in there. So some sort of variable expression over there that it's going to be equal to. That's okay. So what we do is we find where the y is in the equation. So there's the term with y. So first thing we do is keep that on one side and get everything else on the other side. And if we do that, we change the signs. Instead of a minus 2x, this is a plus 2x. Instead of a plus 5, this is a minus 5. So we have that 3y equals that. Because what we did was we added 2x to both sides to get rid of the minus 2x over here with the 3y. We subtracted the 5 from both sides, so that's why it changed. But a lot of students are more comfortable just saying change sides, change signs, instead of going through subtracting and adding on both sides. We need to end up with just y, and we have 3y, so we need to divide that whole thing by 3. So we can write our answer either of two ways. We can say that y is 2x minus 5 over 3, or the 2x is over 3 and the minus 5 is over 3, so we could say 2/3 x minus 5/3. If we were doing a line and we wanted to have y equals mx plus b form, we'd probably want to do this second way, so we could say that the slope's 2/3 and the y-intercept is negative 5/3. We'll review that in a lesson coming up before too long, but just sometimes it makes more sense to actually go ahead and separate that. Anybody with questions on that? Okay, we're going to virtual whiteboard it here, which is basically going to be you're going to type just your answer into the chat line, but wait to hit enter like you've been doing such a great job on. So you guys solve this one. And for this one, I would say distribute first on that side and on this side, and then see if you need to clear fractions or not. But you always want to distribute first. Otherwise, we get confused and we start multiplying the 2 by something and the 1/8, and then we've got too much multiplying going on.